Hello, hello, welcome to, I think it's live chat 30, and hopefully there's stable connection, and it's me, the guy that waffles on about all sorts of stuff. So hi everybody. So if you want to ask any questions, feel free to do so. I'll try and answer them the best of my 30 years knowledge, plus 30 plus years. I'm feeling old now. So if you've got any questions, do feel free to ask. This will go up on YouTube, so you can watch it back. So I'll just start waffling on until someone asks a question. So for those that's been watching the videos, where we are now is I've talked about Anzu or Zu, who has stolen the tablet of destiny. Dun dun dun. And at that point, to be honest, I didn't know what the tablet of destiny was. He'd stole it from Enlil. So I did some research. Turns out the tablet of destiny, dun dun dun, is actually a legal document, even though it's in Sumerian cuneiform. You got to remember, we got the information from the Anunnaki on laws and things like that. So it's a decree law that was passed to Enlil, which was the son of the king, to say that Enlil is the god of the main god of Earth, which is really interesting. So there's a sort of basically a reason why Anzu or Zu wanted that. Now there's a bit of a spoiler coming up here for those of you that haven't that's been watching my videos. The grandson, I can't wait to tell you guys, the grandson of Alalulu, who was one of the kings of Nibiru before he wrestled Anu and lost, his grandson, Alalulu's grandson, is, yes, Anzu, Zu. So that actually makes sense as to why he came down, asked the Aigi for help, came down, stole that actual document, stone tablet, that decrees that Enlil was the god of, because Alalulu, before he passed, should have really been rightful heir, certainly of Nibiru, and then obviously his offspring should have been the gods of Earth. So absolutely makes sense now. So that's what I was saying. So I'm just now going to have a look down. So I find that fascinating, the fact that it all ties in, and the story, it's much better than EastEnders story, the real history of the Anunnaki, etc. And I get people saying, "Oh, it's rubbish, it's all fake." Yeah, there is over 100,000 ancient cuneiform tablets alone. That's without the Babylonian and the Aramaic. Got it right this today. So there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of ancient texts, all describing this whole story, and it wasn't all just written by Enoch. It was written by other scholars, or scribes, shall we say, really. So back then, only a handful of people could read and write, and they were obviously the Anunnaki, and then those that they taught to read and write, the humans that they taught to read and write. So to make a fake, complete and utter backstory that has everything in it, I can't imagine someone sitting there typing, chiseling all that out of clay just for a giggle that someone may learn to read it down the line. And so it's definitely a real thing that all happened. There's just no logic behind faking all of that kind of thing. Willie B has wrote, I think Bigfoot is blurry. That's probably because of all the photographs. Maybe he's like, those videos where you see someone's pixelized out. Maybe they're already deliberately blurry, so when you take a picture of them, they're already blurry. That's a good one. Just reading now. I'm not sure Cheese Stell has wrote, but he but is Henningberg staying at Ammonio? I'm not sure what that means. Sorry, forgive me. So what's sorry? Real Skies asks, what's your views on the Looking Glass tech at the big event? So, are you referring, because I think Apple's now doing something called Looking Glass, and I know that's one thing, but then there was the actual proper Looking Glass, which was a device that could actually see through time and space, apparently. So I'm guessing you're referring to that, since we're talking about paranormal. Well, I mean, if you're going to go with the assumption that time travel is real, that time travel's been dealt with by the by Black Ops, you know, with the whistleblowers coming out and things like that. And, you know, if you just go back to the USS Eldridge, which was the Philadelphia experiment, there was obviously something they was definitely doing there, and it kind of possibly involved time travel. So the military have obviously been dealing with time travel and stuff like that. So the Looking Glass, I would say, is probably real. I don't think it would be an alien device. I think it was something that we've probably gone through the process of trying to manipulate matter and etc until we finally come across this. And I think that would have probably done in stages. So it wouldn't have just suddenly been that. It would have been, you know, like I say, the Eldridge doing that, and then they learnt from that, and then they learnt from that, and so on. Just scrolling down. Anunnaki. Zach Little has wrote Anunnaki movement. I'm just going to see if they wrote any more. How do you mean movement? I mean, they literally, as I said on one of my videos, the easiest way to know where they were was look for pyramids. If there's a pyramid, you're pretty sure that they were there at one point or another. Then you've also got other places where there's not sort of pyramids, like obviously Greece and Rome, etc. And obviously they were there because we've got the same person, or same people, same Anunnaki, should I say. You know, I use Neptune and Poseidon as an example, but so they were definitely around. Now, I think they're also around in other places, such as England, and I say that before I wouldn't have said that, but because I've gone back round reading the books and stuff and the transcribes, I think that the Stonehenge was a calendar, just as modern science says it is, but I think it's actually written in the Book of Enoch. So if you watch one of my videos where they talk, I mean, the writing goes on for pages and pages of what they call gates. So the first gate, the light will shine through it, and it will settle on the 8th gate, and so on. So I think they were definitely here. Then the question is, well, you know, why would they need that kind of stone monument if they're that far advanced? And that's the question. Why is there no other kind of devices that we can find of theirs? Obviously there probably was, and certainly in Iraq, where these things were hidden from us. But why would they want Stonehenge, for example? And it wasn't just Stonehenge in the UK, Stonehenge is all over the world. A lot of them were obviously been destroyed, and the bricks were used for people making houses and stuff. So the question then is, why would they build that? Why haven't they got a watch? Now obviously time zones are different, so over here from the UK is different time zone to somewhere else, so that makes sense. But still the question then is, why haven't they got that sort of technology to work out what the time is wherever they are, like a simple thing like a watch? And that goes back to me saying I think their technology was 150 years ahead of ours in terms of their knowledge, but their technology is behind where we are now. So imagine if we didn't have electricity, we would have carried on making things out of steam. So we've jumped quite far because of electricity. But if they didn't have electricity, if they couldn't figure out a way of doing electricity, even though they did have power sources such as the Great Pyramid, but if they couldn't have mini power sources that would go on their wrist, like a watch, for example, if they couldn't figure out that, then that would make sense why they needed Stonehenge as opposed to having devices with them. So I think they were behind in some respects, but advanced in others. So I mentioned yesterday on the live chat that the descriptions of some of the machines that they used to hover were described as what we now call a helicopter, which would kind of make sense, because a helicopter, you can figure out where a helicopter comes from the, there's a tree that lets these sort of things fall off of it, and it spirals down. It's only one propeller, but obviously if you spin that fast enough and have two of them, then it goes back up. So they were advanced, and it wasn't a helicopter that looks like our helicopter. It was a helicopter that had sort of one seat and four legs to it. So it was a very crude helicopter, but still they managed to produce that. But why didn't they produce a different vehicle? We know they used rocket fuel of some description because of the rockets that they travelled to take the mining and the gold and things. So going back to the movements, yes. If you need to know more, just ask more specific question on the movement. Otherwise, I'll waffle on. I'm just scrolling on now. Aaron has wrote Australian pyramids. Yeah, so I was doing more research on those just the other day. Yeah, there is some supposedly in Australia. What they're used for, now I think different pyramids were used for different things. So for example, the Great Pyramid lets off of energy off of the top, and certain areas of the Great Pyramid still actually produce energy. That was found using infrared type devices a few years back. One particular chamber that's never been explored suddenly showed up really hot, as if there was something in there. But the pyramids next to it in Giza don't produce the same type of energy that the Great One does. So obviously we know the Great One's smack bang on a ley line, in fact an important ley line that crosses. So the pyramids in Australia, I need to do more research on that, because as far as I'm aware, they didn't do any gold mining in Australia. I might be wrong. So what were the Anunnaki doing? Were they just setting up pyramids for the distribution of power on ley lines that would then circumnavigate the globe? Yes, globe, not flat Earth. Because everywhere there's a pyramid, well, I'll rephrase that. Most places where there's a pyramid or main pyramid is on a ley line. So that's part of their Tesla type free energy that is sent around wirelessly. So the best person to look into that kind of thing is Michael Tellinger. He is absolutely fantastic with the electronic or energy that the Anunnaki were producing from not just pyramids, but from the stone structures that they created. I'm going to try and get through these quicker today, so apologies if you was one of the people yesterday. Rob and House, I think his name is, Nothing Called Aliens. I might have been behind on the messages now, sorry. Pacific has wrote, you should really see the pyramids under our oceans. Honestly, think about that. Well, supposedly there's one in the Bermuda Triangle, which would make sense as to why possibly ships go, if it's a power one like the Great Pyramid, then that would explain why the ships go and lose their coordinations, and planes would lose possibly their certainly their instruments. So there could be more pyramids, but obviously we struggle to see much of the ocean as it is. I think some people say it was only like less than 10% explored. So Rob. So going back to the aliens, nothing called aliens. Rob's now wrote only one God, Allah. I'm hoping you're still listening to this, Rob, because I would love to chat to someone like you. And it's not because of religion, it's because the lack of knowledge, and I don't mean this to sound rude, but the lack of knowledge that people have when they quote the Bible and they quote Quran, etc. Now, what they don't know is, because obviously they're just told read the Quran or read the Bible and there you go, that's it, job done. But there's ancient text thousands of years older than the Bible and the Quran, and these are called Dead Sea Scrolls, some Sumerian cuneiform tablets, and as I mentioned earlier, Arabic, Aramaic, and Babylon text all come way, way before the Bible. So when you read those texts, you see that all of the other religious books, including Quran and all the Bibles, are all taken from these original texts. So once you open your mind and say, okay, all right, I'm not just going to be led because people in power want me to read this and I'll follow along with that. Once you break free of that and you look at the original text, and you read things like, as I mentioned the other day, you read things like where Enlil, and this is all written prior to the Bible, Enlil says, don't make them in our image, meaning the humans, when they was discussing whether or not to create a slave race. Enlil says, don't make them in our image. The king finally agrees to actually allow these to be made in the Anunnaki's image. So straight away you know where that's coming from, because in the Bible it talks about God made us in their image, and it's plural, but of course the people that rewrite the Bibles change it to a singular, so then it ends up being different Bibles later on. God made man in his image. You see, the problem you've got when you say there's only one God, Allah, is unfortunately you've been lied to. And I don't mean, don't start getting all angry because of religion and everything else, but go back, look at the original where your book comes from, and it just makes so much more sense than everything else. Now, the Quran does have some a lot of stuff that is copied direct, so that's fine. And same as the Bible had a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, the very later versions, they kept taking out, for example, Enoch. And unfortunately, Enoch's now not in the Bible. I think there's one or two mentions of Enoch, and the Bible literally was, in fact, the Book of Enoch is the Ethiopian Bible, and still is, and it was the original Bible. So once you break down, I don't mean this bad, but once you break down the brainwashing of the people that's telling you what to read, and therefore it's gospel, once you break free of that and you see logic says, okay, what's more sensible? An almighty being that created Earth for 6 days and then was knackered and had a rest, or a group of aliens that came here, wrote everything about it, carved statues, got documentation, maps, buildings that they've built that they actually talked about. Which one sounds more realistic? We've never heard of God since, other than the Bible. He's never came down and shook our hands or anything. We've not got carvings of him, but we have of the Anunnaki. So I'm sorry, I was just sort of went off on a tangent there, but so I know Rob said only one God, Allah, but if you look into it, you'll find that technically, if we're talking about the Anunnaki as gods, then there was 12, and they were just all basically alien beings that came here. So Mickey says, Stonehenge, what's its use? So I'd love to be able to tell you the page numbers, but if you go to, in fact, one of my videos, I did one of the videos on it. So basically it is a calendar for them, and they worked in my opinion, they worked out absolutely everything. So they called them gates as opposed to stone structures that we call them. They called it gates, or that was the word that's been translated from the original texts. So on the first gate, the sun shines through it to the 8th gate, and then on the 5th day, the sun shines through the 2nd gate and hits the and so on and so on and so on. So they knew everything about. They catalogued our days, and in fact, Sumeria is where we get our days and hours from. So it all makes more sense than everything else. So yeah, so they did that. But Stonehenge. Now the question is what else is around Stonehenge, because it's just on its own, or so it looks like. Now you would ask yourself, why would they come all the way over here, put Stonehenge up, and then bugger back off? So recently there's been LiDAR, which is a radar type thing for underneath Stonehenge, and the word is that there is more and more structures underneath Stonehenge, but no one's allowing them to dig them up to find out what they are, because obviously they'd probably be frightened that they might find things that they shouldn't find, which will then prove that Stonehenge is older than it should be. So Stonehenge is basically a calendar, but I think that either the Anunnaki left people here, Anunnakis, or that's in the UK, or they taught certain priests, which would then make sense because of the Druids, etc. So, and we know they did teach priests certain things for when they was allowed to carry the Ark of the Covenant. Only certain people that they allowed. So, and that's humans. So yeah, I'll try and go on a bit. Just scrolling down, reading the messages. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Rob's hopefully still here. Rob's pyramids are power machines with electromagnetic. Yes, well, not all of them, but certainly the Great Pyramid is, and some other ones. They still produce residual energy, so you are right, but not all of them are. Like the two next to the ones in Giza, as I mentioned earlier, don't produce any power. Now, whether or not they did, I might be wrong. They may have done, but there's some fascinating. If you're interested in the, obviously you're probably fully aware of this, Rob, but for those that's listening, if you're interested in how the pyramids worked, I'll just be really quick. They added a chemical in there. Now this chemical, forgive me, I can't remember the name of it, but this chemical is actually lined on a certain height of the walls. So apparently what happened is I'm trying to remember it correctly, underneath where we've got all the what goes right down, and we think they're hidden chambers, etc. That was part of where the Nile water would come up from. So in other words, they dug down into sort of a well, and then when they was ready, that the water would then go up into the pyramid, and there's corrosion marks in watermarks in the Great Pyramid, and it would connect with this chemical. Now, whether or not it was a gaseous chemical or a liquid chemical, I'm not sure. And then up in one of the this probably happens on both sides, but if you look at the King's Chamber and it goes off up towards Orion, but it turns, so it's not actually pointing at Orion. A lot of people think, it's pointing to Orion, or was pointing to Orion when they think that they were made. But it does turn, so it's not actually pointing at Orion. It was just a design that ended up looking like it was pointing at Orion. And we know that, or I know that it wasn't pointing at Orion for any reason, because you can't. There's no gap outside. So they said that the king's soul, when a king died, he was put into the king's chamber, and his soul would escape up through this tunnel into towards Orion, if they correctly dated it back. But it turns, and we know that because the Discovery Channel put a camera up there and it turned, and there was no exit mark, there's no bricks missing on the outside, so you can't look down that way. So obviously it wasn't a spirit chamber. And of course, Zahi also, if you know who Zahi is, he also called it the so-called King's Chamber because he didn't even believe it was supposed to be for a king. But anyway, yes, up there, there's this stone. You've probably seen it on pictures. There's a stone with what they called two hinges, metal hinges, or bronze or copper hinges. But what they were actually, they were electrodes to do with the chemical reaction from the pyramid. So I've probably all bored you to tears now, so I'll shut up and move on to the next question. Sorry. So Auckland has wrote, what you think of Linda Moulton Howe, credible regarding the alien artifacts in Antarctica? Yeah, I mean, she's had a couple of whistleblowers. I don't know if you've seen the videos. I mean, I love Linda. I've spoken to her a few times on various subjects. She had a couple of people that was blacked out on one of these videos so that you couldn't see who they were, but they were saying that they worked at Antarctica and went through their story of, you know, this alien craft, etc. She knows her stuff, really does know her stuff, and I think, to me, she can smell crap, and if she smelt crap, she probably wouldn't have had those guys on her video. So if she puts out stuff, I think it's because she's done enough research on it. She's not the sort of person that will just, you know, trust me, bro. She does her homework. I mean, I sort of pointed out something to her once, and so that she didn't think of, and you know, she came back and said, you know, really good point. So you know, she can make mistakes. I'm not saying, you know, everyone can make a mistake, but or not see a point, shall we say? Not necessarily make a mistake, but not see a point. But I think she is one of the people I would absolutely, you know, trust. If she said, you know, she's seen, you know, a little grey or whatever she says, if she says it, I think I would trust her, certainly more over than, not saying some of the other people, but probably one or two that I would. There was I can't remember his name now. He did a video. I'm going off subject now. Sorry, yeah. Otherwise I'll be here all day. Good morning to Jam Truth, who says good morning. Andy has, thank you for the whoever's blowing these kisses and stuff and the waving hands and that. I don't know how to do that, but thank you. I am noticing them, and that's great. I've seen a portal, says Andy. Tuesday, his name is. I've seen a portal at Catalina Island. Okay, I'd be interested to hear more about that. Was there sort of a light, or, you know, did something come through it? I'd be very interested to see. Amanda's replying to everyone. She's fantastic. She seems to be my little helper somehow. And so give her some thumbs up and kisses as well. That'd be great. Caladora, lovely. Hi there. Yes, she asked me a question once, and I did a video back to her, so I remember her name. Do you believe current UFOs are aliens, or could they be us from another time traveling? Okay, so 15 years ago, probably slightly more than that, I was of the assumption that some of the greys were us, because I'd heard so many stories about us in the future, moving off Earth, going to 2 other planets, and then coming back for our DNA. But since then, no, I don't think they are. Lots of reasons why I don't think they are, lots and lots now. But I did back then. I was like, well, I went through the whole process of, you know, Neanderthal, big teeth, big forehead, big ears, because they needed to listen, they needed to rip meat from the bone and so on. But, you know, and now we've got sort of smaller teeth, and if you go over, you know, probably a million years, we won't, if we're controlling the sound around us and controlling the food and this, that and the other, all that will happen is we'll get skinnier, we'll probably have a smaller mouth and a bigger brain. So yes, we would end up looking like a little grey. So that's what made me think that was us from the future. But when I've put all the pieces together of where all the little greys come from, I can't say for sure that any of them come from the future. They come from certain star systems. I'm talking about the greys as opposed to other races that may, could be us coming back from the future. So I don't think they're us from the future. Just can't see it now. Although I did, many years back, but now not so much. And Amanda's asked Calidora, lovely, do you think we ate the aliens? Okay. We seem to have someone here called Raiden who's asking, unfortunately, silly questions about donuts. That's a really good question. Mickey's or Mikai has wrote, where would we all be if Tesla was still alive and doing his research? Probably exactly where we are now, unfortunately, and that's because I'm sure you're fully aware of the story about Westinghouse and General Motors, etc. So basically his funding got pulled when he developed that free energy device. The tower, if you don't know what I'm on about, there was a tower. Just Google Tesla Tower. He's basically wanted to give away free energy, and the money people that was behind him said, no, you're not doing that. So unfortunately, as much as I would love to say, yeah, we'd all be flying around in free energy cars, no, I don't think we would. I think even if he would be working for the government, if he was still alive, they'd have him, and just like they did, they took all his patents as soon as he died. They went into his room and stole all of his notes and stuff. So if he was still alive, he would be either bumped off or working for him. Unfortunately, I can't see. It's the same now. There's so many other people out there that have created all sorts of free energy devices, and there's a list, believe it or not, on a couple of sites where it lists all the names of these people that created these free energy devices and how they accidentally died. So the motto of the story is, if you do create a free energy device, and I thought about this many years back, is literally stick the open source out there on the internet as quick as you can, and you're never going to make money on it, but at least people will, it'll be out there enough for people to start creating their own devices. But as for selling it, it ain't going to happen. I mean, it's the same as everything is medical. If there's no illnesses, then pharmaceuticals are out of business. If there's no cars, petroleum companies are out of business. It's the same thing. Electric, if there's no... it's money, unfortunately. Craig's asked, do you think that the pyramids and other old megalithic structures are natural portals on Earth? No. However, not pyramids. However, certain places, Pumapunku and other places like that, certainly in Peru, they have these, what they call, the local people call them star doors. We obviously dubbed them star gates, but these are door frames made out of stone structures. And I did a little video once on a story about a guy that says he leant up against it and hummed a certain tune and disappeared through it. But regardless of his story, the natives in the area still said that's how the star people came and went. So yes, to a certain point, if these stone structures with the stone doorways were on certain specific ley lines or had enough energy pumped through them, depending on what kind of stone those doorways were made of. Because if you think that the missing people that David Politis talks about, the majority of them go missing in national parks, but the majority of them go missing near quartz or limestone. So, and we know limestone can be manipulated, and so can quartz. to give a frequency. So a frequency obviously is something that everything has: sound, light. Light has frequencies. So if you go along all of those lines, then yes, they could be doorways that aliens come and go from, which is what the natives, local people, have said. And it's not just one country talking about that from one door. It's many doors in many countries. So yes, but not pyramids. Pyramids, I think, was something different. Amanda's asking some excellent questions back to people. In fact, Amanda should be doing these live chats. She's quite clued up. Mike's asked, Bigfoot, I'm behind the messages now, my favourite topic. If you want to know anything, something I haven't really spoke about is their glyphs. I don't know if people are aware of that Bigfoots actually leave glyphs on the ground. Quite interesting. I'll go into that if anyone's interested. Pacific's wrote pyramids scattered all around the world on land and under the ocean. Yeah, I mentioned the one that I'm possibly aware of, if it's a real one. We've got our friend JM Callback, who's was a troll the other day, and he's asking, do we like onions? Mikey has wrote Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, now that's a really good question again, because I struggle with this. Now I was listening to Linda Moulton Howe just a couple of days ago, and she was saying that that she was told that the moon is totally an alien spaceship, and it's been there millions of years to observe us. Millions of years. Now bear that in mind, millions of years. So I had a little struggle with that, and I haven't spoke to her about it, but my struggle is, right, millions of years ago, even depending how many millions, humans wasn't even caveman millions of years ago wasn't here. So why, and we know the far side of the moon is where the majority of the structures are, where the entrances come and go from, etc., etc. So my question is, if it was an alien spaceship monitoring us, why hide on the backside of the moon when humans weren't even around, and creatures on Earth wasn't even around to look up? Dinosaurs didn't have telescopes. So the dark side of the moon makes me think that that moon was used after humans become sentient and able to start discerning what's going on around us. So I can't see it being millions of years old, because would you hide from dinosaurs on a moon? I wouldn't. It just doesn't, the logic doesn't seem right to hide, but only hide on the back when the creatures on that planet that you're observing wouldn't be able to see you. So okay, I'm just going to move on, because the old things are creeping up on me. Just ignoring JM Call again. Unfortunately, Mike is replying to JM. Mickey's wrote, bro, this is my favourite channel now. Thank you for doing this. Oh, thank you. Hopefully some of the stuff I've replied to you about makes sense. So Mike 024 has wrote, Allah means God, doesn't it? I'm not 100% sure. I haven't sort of researched that side of it. Obviously, I've researched the sort of the gods that we know of. I'll be honest, I have tried to read the Quran, but once I started reading it and realised that it was sort of a copy, which I thought it was going to be, of the ancient text, I kind of stopped reading it. But yeah, I mean, it could be Allah as God. I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on that. Amanda's wrote back to Mike. Think people have come up with a lot of words for God. Yeah. Andrea has wrote, reading the Book of Enoch right now. Excellent. Well done. Good. What are the other texts you mentioned called? I've done a video, probably the next 15 out. So in other words, it'll probably be coming out. What day are we on? Thursday. So come Monday or Tuesday, have a look. I've done a reference. Because obviously on my 1 minute videos it's hard to reference things. So keep watching my videos. No, it's not a plug for my videos. It's just keep watching. Otherwise, I could sit here and reel off loads of things, but you'll see it all on that video. Sorry. Otherwise, I'll never get through these questions. Mickey says, love how they say they come down from the heavens on a fiery chariot. Come on now. Yeah, so that's their rocket ships. They're called Vimanas, or that's what we've described them as. And they use rocket power. But unfortunately back then they had no other word for chariots. They couldn't sort of say a space rocket or spaceship or something like that. And heaven, we have to agree that the word heaven that we translated way back should have been space. But obviously way back when we translated it, there was no word for space, because space, no one really understood 2,000 years ago what's outside our Earth and where the moon is situated and where the sun is situated. So they called it heaven. So when you read the Book of Enoch, to the lady that's reading it at the moment, when you read the Book of Enoch, substitute the word heaven for space and the word angel for a guard or a military person, and my God, it makes so much more sense than what we're told now. So yeah, they did use rocket ships. Amanda's replied back saying emerald tablets are some, to the lady that was asking. Amanda's also trying to carry on remembering the names of all the books or the texts that they should read. I mean, my brain will fry if I try and do that right now. So Mike's wrote, Bigfoot found in Queensland, Australia. Well, the Yowie. See, I've said this before, I still think that particular Bigfoot isn't part of the Bigfoots that we know in America and Russia and Himalayas, which are all connected, or was connected back when the land mass wasn't underwater. So I mean, to me, I think that was an interdimensional creature that's came out in Australia and sort of got stuck there. That's just my take on it. I might be wrong. I'm just going through. Chaos has wrote 100%. We are remnants of a minor race. Do you mean minor as in lesser, or do you mean minor as in the people that mined for the gold? I guess technically either way. And someone's just replied back to him saying, yes, I'm programmed to mine gold. Yeah, we was, unfortunately. They did like us in the end, though, and they allowed us to have agriculture and things. They even helped us create pigs, domesticated pigs, which I always find a fascinating thing, 10,000 years ago. Mike 024 has wrote, the Ark is in Ethiopia, others say Oak Island. Yeah, see, now, so the Ark of the Covenant, I think, as much research as I've done, it lends itself to more than one Ark. Now, I know the Ark that we all know supposedly had the 10 Commandments put inside it, but I think the Ark was a power device of some sort. I could waffle on. There's 25 messages left for me to read, but if you want to know why I think it was a power device, and it let off radiation, unfortunately, which is why you're probably thinking of the church that supposedly has the Ark of the Covenant in it, and every few years the monk that's looking after it has radiation issues and goes blind and things like that. So I think there was more than one, because the stories go that one of them came over through France to Scotland. So I think there was probably more than one. I think it was some sort of power device that could help, the Israelites knock down Jericho wall and that kind of things. Chaos wrote, any educated person sees it like this. Not sure what that was referring to now. Okay, so Arif Tash, sorry, it's hard to read that right now. What is the meaning of chakra, the spin some call a UFO? Where do I come from and is my purpose? Okay, so chakra is, I think, the energy that a spirit, so when I say spirit, an entity, a light being that joins with you, the chakra is theirs. So when you die, your chakra goes. So that makes sense. So that is just the energy field that surrounds the entity that's joined with you. Somehow it sort of creates an energy field around you, and that's what gets attacked by the jinn, and in fact, dare I say it, military groups of black ops. I've heard some stories where they've trained people, remote viewers, to attack people's chakra and can actually kill people. For example, if there was one story of a guy they was trying to kill. He was a politician type person in London, and he was on a bus, and this remote viewer supposedly kept attacking this guy's chakra until he had a heart attack. So I think there's something to the chakras. Sorry, next question, what you wrote, where do I come from, and what is my purpose? So originally, if you say where do you come from, you're an offspring of the Anunnaki and possibly Neanderthal, or one of the indigenous species here at the time, or you could be, and again, just last night I was researching this again, because I keep talking about it and people keep saying no, but I'm right. So scientists, and even up to now, admit that Neanderthal went away 40,000 years ago. Apparently, that was the last time they were here. But prior to that, humans that were here and all the other indigenous species all interbred with each other. So you or me could be a descendant from humans and Homo florensis, for example, or humans and Neanderthal. So they split off and had their own races, technically, even though we all look the same. So yeah, that's where you sort of come from, unfortunately. And your purpose is just to be a container for the spirit. That's and hope you enjoy yourself while you're here. That's pretty much it. There is no purpose for you, because once your spirit, which is joined with you, once it crosses over twice, so it crosses over to when they're dead and then cross over again, you go, even though the memories of you stay with this entity, and then obviously when it rejoins with another person, that's when you get reincarnation. But you, as your feelings and everything, go once they cross over the second time. So you are, unfortunately, and we all are, just here as a container. So the same person wrote, mate, I'm teaching, I am the almighty AKS speaking a king. We go big educator. Okay, not quite sure what that means, sorry. Susan's wrote, they could be afraid in our souls. I'm not sure what, I'm so far behind, forgive me. I seem to go on, but so I'm not sure where that's referring to. Although Amanda does seem to try and help with these questions, because she knows I get behind. I'm just scrolling on. Kentucky Reaper has wrote, whether it's ETs or us from the future, time travel must be involved. I'm just trying to think if I've heard any stories of aliens talking about themselves going backwards and forwards in time. I know I've heard stories about black ops and things like that. I've heard that, like for example, the Zetas, when they were showing Earth to contactees, even though they were kind of abducted, but they were trying to enlighten them. They were showing them images of Earth as it was millions and millions of years ago, and then in the future it shows what's happened. So I guess they can travel in time. If we can, they can probably do it. So that's one scenario, and then there's this the device that the military was shown, and I don't know whether they managed to get a copy of it or get hold of it, but apparently this device from the Tall Whites looks like a bit like an iPad, but it can capture time. If you want me to waffle on about that, I will, but so you can actually play back an area of time using this device. Quite fascinating. Chaos wrote, Star Trek's probably more of a future documentary of life in the universe. I would love Star Trek to sort of be real and, you know, us travel amongst the stars like that in a happy fashion as opposed to go to war. Tesla technology, Kentucky's wrote, Tesla technology may even hinder microchip technology. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how these things happen. That's a good point, yeah. Amanda's outdoing me with her mentioning with her points here. What if doesn't? She wrote back to Kentucky. What if time doesn't exist elsewhere? She's getting too right. I'm coming to your live chat next time you do one, Amanda. Mickey's wrote, so we're being hindered by greed. Kind of sad. Yeah, that's when he asked what would happen with if we didn't have Tesla. If he didn't die, yes, of course, yeah, it's the power. Nax Test has wrote, Bermuda Triangle is a portal. I think it could, if the pyramids at the bottom of the ocean, like they say, like they've showed pictures, whether or not that's true, I don't know. But if it is a pyramid and it's on a ley line, which apparently it is, the coordinates seem to match, and it's producing power still. And if that power, depending on what kind of power that's coming up from it, can produce using the water as a conductor, because obviously if that amplifies the energy as it goes up, it could. Now obviously Bermuda Triangle's where planes go missing, so that's the logic part of the portals, but there has been the stories of the mist around that area as well. So is it possible that the pyramid below is producing an energy field periodically that when a ship goes over or a plane goes over, it can get caught up in shall we say an ionosphere of energy. So yes, it could create a portal, which would make sense where all the planes have disappeared to. A couple of planes were actually found at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle. I wanted to carry on researching that, so and I found that a couple of planes have been found, but not all of the planes and not all of the ships. So very fascinating. They did just disappear. I'm just scrolling through. We are, Chaos was right, we are pre-warp civilization. Yes, we are, yeah, until Patrick Stewart gets out there and does it for us. Is it true the Queen's mum did some suspect things on Jersey Island? That's knack test. I've not heard of that, so I'm not sure what kind of suspect things they are. Obviously, you got the old story that the blue blood is alien reptilian blood, but I've mentioned before, I struggle to think that the monarchy or any of them, are reptilians disguised as monarchy, because that's a hell of a boring life they've got. They'd be better off, threatening the Queen to do things. So I can't imagine. The blue blood part comes, obviously, they say it's from the reptilians, but obviously if you go back to, I could spend hours talking about the royal families on where their lineage comes from, so I won't do that today. So Kentucky's wrote, in the beginning God made the heavens and the earth, and God made time exist everywhere. Okay, so again, going back to the original text, which is where that will come from, no, they didn't. He didn't make the heavens and earth. If you actually read the proper texts, not the copies version. So what they say is they come from the 12th planet, which is fine. That's Nibiru, so that makes sense. When they got here, they struggled to get through the firmament, which is our atmosphere, which is fine. That makes sense because theirs was dwindling. Makes sense. They landed in water. I did a couple of videos showing where they landed, and when they got out. So on the first day, they catalogued. I need to find the exact references again, but I'll do a video on that when I get to it. But so on the first day, they catalogued beetles, for example. Second day, they catalogued water. Third day, animals. Fourth day, plants, and so on. And on the seventh day, they rested. So that's how it actually plays out, not what you've just said there, which is God created heaven and earth. No, what they do say, if you read the Book of Enoch, is above the firmament is heaven, and we have to replace the word heaven with space, because it says above the firmament in the heavens are the stars. So obviously we can see the stars, which means we can see heaven, and heaven we're not supposed to see if you think of it that way. So of course the translation, unfortunately, space wasn't around back then. So if you say we can see the stars in space, bang, makes so much more sense. So as long as you change the words to how they should be now, that we've got better understanding, God didn't create the universe and make the heavens. If you just go by the correct text, not the text that you're reading from, because obviously that's changed. So once you know that, it's all good. Amanda's wrote, have a read of The Council of Seven Lights by George W. Van Tassel, and she was replying to Kentucky there. Mike's wrote, because their eyes can't handle the light. I'm behind on messages, so I'm not sure where that's come from. If someone can figure that out, sorry, forgive me. Kentucky's replied back to Amanda saying thanks. They'll try and get to read the book. Self-conscious has wrote, in a short sentence, because I do waffle, how do you think the pyramids were built? Okay, so they have a device that they hold in their hands. It looks like a cone, and it produces a sonic frequency that aligns with the limestone, and limestone's got quartz in it in the pyramids, and that then becomes, shall we say, like a tractor beam. So there's a couple of Anunnakis that either side would be using one either side to push and pull the stone. Now these were pre-built before humans. I used to think that humans helped, but I'm now of the opinion that these were way before humans were helping. I mean, they might have helped, go get food or stuff like that, but actually helping with the pyramids, no, I don't think they were involved in the pyramids. So it's a sonic frequency, basically, which uses levitation, which we are now doing. There's a couple of videos on TikTok even, whether or not they're true, but they're showing that a brick can be lifted up, or a stone slab can be lifted up. Now, obviously, if you get the right frequencies to match the frequencies of quartz, etc., then that's how I think it's done. And I mean, I was going to go on about monks moving bricks and stuff with their sounds, but I will try and curtail myself today. Okay, Kentucky's wrote, how do rockets work in space with no fire and nothing to push against? Seriously wondering. I had wondered that myself. It's a really good question, so don't feel bad. It is a really good question. Because technically, if the fire comes out, why is the rocket not? Why doesn't it just stay there? And if there's no friction to push against, I've not looked into that, but I have thought that question, and I sort of went along with yes, how rockets should still kind of move, but maybe not. So I haven't looked into it, but it's an excellent question, because if they're not pushing against anything, then technically the rocket should stay where it is, and the fire out the back should just go off into the distance. It shouldn't be the law of attraction, or the wrong word, but the cause and effect syndrome if there's nothing to push against. So it's an excellent question. I will spend one day trying to research that. Okay, Mike's wrote France to Scotland, then onto Oak Island by the Knights Templars, referring to the Ark of the Covenant. Yes. So if it went to the Oak Island, then there's, as I was saying, there might be more than one, because I'll have to do a whole video on when I get back round to that, about why I think there's more than one. But yes, well done, Mike. Morning to Hebruic, who's wrote morning. Make sure you dehydrate. You're doing a great job, my friend. Thank you. I've been staring at this drink for 20 minutes. Thank you. Whew, needed that. Mike's wrote, people's laughing at me, finally getting some jokes. Oh, hi there, Miss Piggy. Don't make me do stand up. Hi, Cameron. The Queensland Yowies made it to the morning news. Nationwide film footage on. Okay. I mean, if there's any chance, Mike, of sending me sort of a link or something, I would love to see that. And my comedy routine seemed to have went down quite well. Loads of people smiling and laughing, or they're just laughing at me, which is probably the case. Do you know if greys are evil? So there's many types of greys, and none of them are evil in that respect. They do a job. You've got the good ones, you've got the ones that just do a job. But they're not evil per se. None of those are evil. The greys, even the tall whites, are not evil. So no, they're not evil. In a nutshell, other races are, but not them. They just do a job, because some of those are android type greys, and they're just not programmed, but they're. I'm trying to think of a word for it. Okay, kind of programmed then. HD's wrote, is Bigfoot interdimensional or just giant? I knew someone was going to spell that out one day. Gigantopithecus, there we are. Type animal. So no, I don't think it's Gigantopithecus, because there's no fossil evidence of, I mean, you could argue, but there's no fossil evidence of Bigfoot itself. But there's no fossil evidence of anything after Gigantopithecus. And that's what made me first think, okay, so it's not an ape. I mean, that's not to say that we haven't found one. And as many times before, I've said that, there's things out there that we just can't find. But no, I think Bigfoot is a real being stuck on Earth from a prison ship 10,000 plus years ago, and its race flies around in spaceships with little greys. Watch my videos, you'll see I've sort of covered that. I'm just going to have to really quick, I'm now over time. I'm just going to whiz through to, sorry, Amanda's asking questions. What's your thoughts on mermaids? I'm going to have to come back and do another live chat tomorrow, because I'm caught out on time, but I have done some videos on mermaids, not many, but I could go into it more. So all the ones that I've done so far were just very brief. I'm just scrolling down now to the questions. Sorry, just reading questions. Apparently they're fine. Okay, well, I'm kind of up to date, sort of thing. I've just scrolled through, so apologies if I've missed any questions, but I will put this on YouTube. Might not be tonight, actually. I think my computer's got a virus. My little boy done something on it last night, and now I've got all sorts of things popping up. So thank you, Calidora, for saying thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. And this will go on YouTube at some point. And I'll be on again tomorrow at noon just for you guys, because I think you are all fantastic. Essence, I'm so sorry, I've just run out of time, but I'll be here tomorrow and noon if you can join me. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for a nice chat. Talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.